You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Rod Mahood, your in-game voice of the Niagara IceDogs, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your podcast source for all game analysis, team interviews, and up-to-date news regarding the Niagara IceDogs.
Perlini! Overtime! IceDogs win! They score! Verhage was also jamming away. It's a power play goal for the IceDogs. And they score! Hosang, first goal as an IceDog. Strom stops Shipley. Richie scores! Gets it to Akil Thomas. Thomas has the angle coming in. He scores!
Welcome into another Niagara IceDogs game recap right here on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs. Proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family in all four of their great Niagara region locations. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in live on our Armchair GM Sports Network YouTube channel and those listening the next day on your favorite on-demand audio platform. Brandon Caputo and Cam Halbert are with you for the final time this OHL regular season to break down the IceDogs' 2-1 defeat at the hands of the Ottawa 67's, a desperate 67's team trying to get in that final playoff spot. Make sure to give us a follow on X at Dog Pound Podcast. Stay up to date with all of our IceDogs coverage, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network for all of our short content and reels. Cam, this is a tough one here because, again, it's not only is it our final regular season broadcast and we'd like to come on here and have a better result, but looking at the standings, you knew that the IceDogs coming in against North Bay and Ottawa, two teams that are desperate, but they are lower than the IceDogs in the standings, and you really wanted the IceDogs to kind of have a get-right game to get them playing better momentum going into the playoffs here to finish out their 3-3.
Yeah, it's really just kind of a parallel to how the season has gone. Their offense just seems to have dried up near the end of the season when they've been one of the highest-scoring teams in the league. And Owen Flores is back. He's played fantastic in net, gave them a big win against Erie, which is a team that they've struggled with quite a bit over the last few years. And, yeah, you mentioned that while Ottawa is pretty desperate, to only put up one is pretty tough for a team that's about to head into the playoffs, and obviously you want to see them get ready. Just kind of a flat performance after a pretty good first period, but yeah, you'd like to see more, and just an absolute brutal stretch ever since, we talked about the losing streak and everything. That with 3 wins since January 26, and it just feels like they're just trying to get to the end.
And with Flores in that, they do play with a lot more confidence.
100%. And
we'll hear from IceDogs head coach Ben Boudreau a little bit later on tonight. But you looked at, and we'll get into all the game stats and everything like that, but you look at the 67's team, they're coming in on the road. Their head coach, Dave Cameron, wasn't even behind the bench tonight because of that altercation that he had with Kingston head coach Troy Mann at the end of their last game that ended up in fines. So they didn't even have their head coach behind the bench tonight. You thought that this was a really good opportunity for the IceDogs to at least pull out a point. And through the first period or so, it looked like the IceDogs had enough of an effort to be able to pull it out. But again, just a couple of missed opportunities and letting Ottawa hang around and then eventually get the game winner.
Yeah, it was super frustrating. That first period was one of their better periods over the last 2 months. And, we'll get into that. Lashko missing a wide open net. It just feels like everyone's just kind of battling through it, unfortunately. And then their power play looked good. Asadorian with a big goal on the power play. But, as the period and the game went along, Ottawa just forced them to the outside. They couldn't get any real dangerous chances, and just a frustrating performance for sure.
We'll get started with our prep list, brought to you by Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano. You tried the rest, now why not try the best? Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, proudly serving the Niagara community since 2013. Carmine's Pizzeria.ca for the best quality pizza and wing combos anywhere in Niagara. Can't break down the lineup for us tonight from the IceDogs.
So, the lines have shifted quite a bit over the season, but, number one, Kevin with Asadorian and Matthew Paris, which ever since Asadorian and Paris have come back, they showed a lot of chemistry early on. The second line was Robrick with Zada and Doherty up there. So Waslin's moved off that line, and I got to be honest with you, this was the quietest that second line has looked in a long time. It was one of the quietest games from Zada and Robrick. Just really didn't see anything out of there. And then the third line of Loshko, Levin, and Waslin. Again, it just feels like there's not a lot of chemistry recently in that. And having Loshko down on the third line, should allow for good matchups. Waslin's had a pretty quiet run to end his rookie season after a phenomenal first few months. And then the fourth line of Max Crete with Gallianov as well as Aerosmith. So Aerosmith down to the fourth line with Doherty moving up to the second. I thought Gallianov has continued his stretch of really good play. But obviously, you don't want him to be the player that you notice the most offensively. And if that's happening, then things aren't going well. And that's really what it looked like in the back half of that game. So I don't know. I don't know what fixes this. I think that first of all, it's probably too little too late in terms of that. This is what you've got. But, the first few months of the season when they were number one in the Eastern Conference, it was Loshko and Kevin He. And, they couldn't figure out that other winger. It was rotated with Gallianov and Crete for a while. But that first line it had Kevin in the top 5 in scoring for a majority of the first part of that season. So I don't know. Try that again. It's just frustrating. Again, the offense has died up, and we thought that during the losing streak, a lot of that had to do with, Flores being hurt. But when Flores is back and he gives you, just 2 goals against, you got to win that game against a non-playoff team currently. It's just frustrating.
And then Andrew Wysick still day-to-day, and again, just a guy you really want to see get in some games for playoffs because it's going to be his first experience with playoffs, a 4-year Ice Dog here, drafted in 2021. You'd really like to see him get in the lineup, and then, that means Darcy DeWatcher comes in as a sixth defenseman. And I thought tonight that he played a pretty decent game. He didn't do anything to put himself out of position, and you didn't notice him, and that was a good thing. I think DeWatcher, now that he's been getting in some games, starts to look more like an OHL defenseman in spurts, and you saw it tonight that he at least held his ground there with Scott on the third pair.
I think the best way to describe this game is that it was just boring from both sides.
That's a Dave Cameron game.
Exactly. Ottawa could not do anything offensively. They took advantage of one opportunity or a couple, and the Ice Dogs couldn't do anything offensively. And outside of the first period, there was a little bit of fisticuffs, and they got a little heated near the end of the second. But man, it just was that happens in hockey. There's a lot of nothing plays sometimes, and sometimes an entire game can be that, and that's really what this one felt like.
We'll get into it with our game stats brought to you by Gales Gas, your go-to gas station in the Niagara region. They're not just a gas station, they're a local tradition because when it comes to fuel, you're going to Gales with multiple locations across Niagara. Shots on net, Cam, 14-12 in the first, but I thought, again, the Ice Dogs played a good first period. Probably could have got 2 or 3 goals there. They ended up with a 1-0 lead after the first. The second period was really where things turned in Ottawa's favor, 12-6 in the shot department, and they also scored both their goals in that middle period, 9-9 in the third for a total of 35-27 in favor of the 67's.
Yeah, and again, that kind of checks out. I mean, there just was no space inside. There wasn't any creativity offensively, and the one thing was there was no breakaways or 2-on-1s essentially, like absolutely zero. And you usually every game, regardless of the score and how it goes, you usually get one with Robrick or Zada or Kevin, just based on their skating. And there was nothing in this game. There was no 2-on-1, so that means that they have to cycle and create their chances off that, which this team isn't particularly elite at. So it just, again, kind of a nothing game in this one. So you can't really take much from it other than the fact that, there was still like playoff implications and things like that on the line. But, Ottawa obviously was going to play hard because they're still in a playoff fight.
And with the Ice Dogs, if they would have won this game, they would have had both them and Sudbury 2 games left, only 1 point back. So it was still a possibility for them to get the 6th spot. But when you don't even gain a point against the 67's team, that's really deflating. Going into tomorrow against North Bay, where they really need to pick up 2 points. But the power play, and again, this was the X factor coming into the game. Not that the 67's went 0 for 1 on their power play. The Ice Dogs 1 for 3, but this 67's penalty kill, Cam, is worst in the Ontario Hockey League at 68%. And their penalty kill, which is crazy for, Dave Cameron's defensive style. The IceDogs really needed to come away with a couple more on the power play tonight. They had their chances. They took a penalty on the second one that they had, and then the third one was basically a 6-on-4 late. But again, they need to capitalize on a team that really struggles on the PK.
Well, I mean, they did in the first Acidorians.
The first goal.
It was nice, and I actually kind of understand why their power play is so poor. He just essentially walked right down the middle.
Or
it was
PK.
the easiest. Yeah. That was probably one of the easier goals that he's going to score. Outside of that, the IceDogs have a hard time drawing penalties, and that's because they're a rush team. They don't cycle the puck particularly a ton. So when you're not cycling, you're not creating time in the offensive zone where they get desperate and they got to hack and hook and whatever to try to get the puck back. And that's tough because you're right. I think that with maybe another power play or two, they'd probably win, but it's just hard to get going. They just, in the third period, they desperately needed a power play, it felt like, and they didn't get one until it was too late.
Face-offs tonight, actually, Andre Lashko was very good on the dot tonight, 16 of 20 for the Seattle Kraken prospect. Acidorian, 9 of 17. Galliena, 5 of 10. Ethan Zada, another rough night, 3 for 11. Max Creed actually won 2 of 3, the draws that he took. But Lashko, 16 of 20. IceDogs led in that category, 35-27. But it felt like late where they really needed to get clean draws back to the defense. That was something that Ottawa really was clogging up there, making sure that they weren't getting clean face-off wins, especially with the goalie pulled.
No, for sure. And speaking to Lashko, that's something that you need to see. If he's going to be on the third line, then he's going to go up against third lines, and Lashko has got to be one of the better third-line centers in the league at this point, given the fact that he's top 20 in scoring and just an overage NHL drafted player. So not really surprised at his dominance there. And he's been good all year on the face-off. Like I said, Zada's line with Robrick and Doherty, that was one of their, they didn't give up anything, but it was one of their least creative. You just didn't notice anything off it. They could not get anything going offensively. And, obviously they're probably pretty frustrated, but you don't see that very often, so.
No, 12 and 25 are usually able to make an impact on
and they
most
have.
nights.
That's not to say that they haven't been great. They've,
Robert's up to 40 goals.
Yeah, exactly. He's got 40 goal scorer. You can't really complain about that. And Zada's got over 50 points. So, again, no complaints there overall. It's just this game was a surprise that, halfway through the second, I didn't even notice Zada. And, I actually enjoy watching him play a ton because he plays with such an edge. It's nice to see. Yeah,
they just struggled to get offense tonight. We'll get into it with our scoring summary brought to you by the Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work in Niagara since 1983. Check out their up-to-date job board at ehc.on.ca to find your next work opportunity today. Only 3 goals to go over here, and it was a quick start for the IceDogs, and we thought, okay, this is it right here. This is where the IceDogs really get going here, score 4 or 5 in the game. You mentioned that first power play they got, boom, right away. Alex Acidorian goes right down the gut and is able to wrist one on the blocker side of McKenzie. At the 3:47 mark of the first period, Robrick and Lashko get the assists on that one, and that really felt like it got the IceDogs going because we needed to see them get a quick start, get the first goal, because that's something that they struggled with.
Yeah, and again, it was in the power play, so it checked all the boxes there because the power play in the playoffs, more than likely going to play Barrie. They have to score at a 20% clip on the power play, at least, because Barrie is just, a very, very well-rounded team. They are a little over the top in terms of aggression and things like that, so there is the possibility of a bunch of power plays, things like that. So, but nonetheless, it was a great start. I think the real big turning point was that Lashko missed goal. Brody had one of the nicest setups that we've seen all year. It was just a fake slapper, and Lashko was legitimately sitting in the crease behind the goalie, and I don't know how it went off of him and off the bar. Just unreal bad luck, because if that goes in, it's 2-0, and the way that Ottawa had nothing the first period, just nothing. There was, and not to say that the IceDogs were dominating, but it was definitely tilted onto the Ottawa defensive zone, but it changes the outlook of the game. Ottawa down 2 as opposed to down 1, and then obviously in the second period they come back.
And then Kevin had that shot that went off the butt end of McKenzie's stick.
Yeah, it's just they're fighting it. They're all just fighting it seems.
They had the lead 1-0, but again, after that Lashko chance, you really felt like if they could get the second goal to go up by 2, not let Ottawa hang around, you thought that they could really put this game away, but they weren't able to. And then in the middle period, that's when the 67's battled back, and it was Jackson who made a really nice move on Matthew Paris. He was kind of flat-footed at the blue line, and then he just cut to the middle. The Red Sea just parted there and went low blocker on Owen Flores, and you're thinking, okay, 1-1 here. But, again, that was just one of those plays where the Ice Dogs just had a bad second period. And we've talked about that on multiple occasions this year where they have, like, these stretches of games, and it's mostly in the middle periods where they might take a couple of shifts off here and there, and then their opponent takes advantage.
100%. It really feels a lot in a lot of these games, especially the last 2 months, that they just knew they were in the playoffs, and they're just getting to the playoffs, and they're just going through the motions. The issue is that we talked about it ad nauseum. They didn't add. This wasn't their year to, go all in and things like that. And all the teams that they're going to face, Barrie specifically in the first round, they did, and they are a loaded team, and it's going to get real quick and real hard fast. So, they need to get it going in these last 2 games. I don't even know what we need to see from them in the last 2 games. Some chemistry, I think, and
consistency.
Just that, just because I thought they played really well defensively tonight. I don't think Ottawa had anything. It's just offensively they just don't seem to have it together, and we're really late into the season. But I don't know if you can change the lines now. I'm sure you could, but like I said, the Loshko line won with Kevin worked at the beginning of the season, and I don't know if that's the cure-all, but it worked well at a point in the season, and so did the top line of Kevin Asadorian and Paris.
They had a really good first period.
And in this game they were definitely the most noticeable line. I thought they played fine. They played good. They just didn't finish. And I don't know what we're about to see. A pretty tough game against North Bay, especially because I think they can clinch tomorrow. Now the exact same situation. Ottawa and North Bay both are in desperate need of a playoff spot. North Bay just somehow beat Oshawa, so tomorrow they're still 2 points up on Ottawa. So if Niagara beats North Bay tomorrow and Ottawa wins their next game on Sunday, and I think it's against Oshawa.
They play Erie on Saturday.
Sorry. I think their last game was against Oshawa. So it's a mess there, but North Bay's going to be trying.
Yeah. And then we got some rough stuff, which was, I don't know if this was something that happened from their last time they were up in Ottawa, but it seemed like there was a lot of scrums in this game. Then we saw Mike Levin going at it, and he ended up getting a 10-minute misconduct and 4 minutes in penalties. And I think it was Chase Yanni is the player he was going after.
Both of them were fighting over a ref. It was one of them. It was just frustrating. They should have just gone at it. They both, I don't know. The ref wouldn't get out of the way.
Yep.
They should have just let them go because I think the ref might have caught, they were just hyped up. And, I like that. That's good to see. You want the team to battle for each other. It's not good if they don't. And that's something that they do quite well usually. And again, they're going to need to come together next week.
And then the 67's get the goal, and it's the one guy you don't want to see have a chance in Titan. It's Luca Pinelli, the Columbus Blue Jackets prospect, and he's their leading scorer by far, Cam. When you look at his stats, Luca Pinelli with the Ottawa 67's this year, 36 goals now, 68 points in 50 games. Their next closest player is 48 points, and Cooper Foster is also an NHL drafted player. But Luca Pinelli, by far and away, after they traded away Henry Muse on the back end, their most dangerous player. And he just kind of walked in. There was just kind of a soft coverage on the left circle there. They made a nice passing play and kind of caught the Ice Dogs off guard, and Pinelli just walked right in on the left circle, and that's the wrong guy. That's the biggest threat on the 67's team, and he gives them the eventual game winner.
Yep, they took advantage of their opportunities, and that was the difference in the game because, like I said, in that first period, it could have been 3-0. And, like I said, they played well, but you got to put it in the back of the net sometimes.
Yeah, so that's it. 2-1 is the final. The Ice Dogs did pull the goalie. They had a power play, actually, for a delay of game. The 67's shot at a play. It was a 6-on-4, and they just really couldn't generate anything there. Ottawa was able to kind of get the puck down the ice because, obviously, no icing with the power play. Was there anything there in the last minute or so that you noticed?
I think there was urgency, and, I thought they threw it towards the net. Again, just a frustrating game. There was just nothing available. It was very low event hockey, and sometimes that happens, But Ottawa definitely wanted to play it like that. because I think the IceDogs, top to bottom, are a better team, and they probably should have won this one. But, man, you can't – you're going to look back on this season, and it feels like a failure when it's not. We've talked about this quite a bit over the last little while. The 3 wins since January 26th is just –
it's tough.
I don't know how you – hey, the playoffs, everything goes back to 0. And, that's great. That's desperately they need that. But it's like, man, I don't know how you go into the playoffs feeling good, Other than maybe it is a fresh start. So, maybe this all doesn't matter. But, they were first in the Eastern Conference. And now they could be less than 8 points up on a playoff spot by the end of the season. And, that's a fall. That's tough, But nonetheless, the season is still a W, right? I'm happy as a fan. We're gonna get some playoff games. It's gonna be a very tough matchup against Barrie, more than likely. Again, I think the scenarios. I guess we can just lay them out real quick. Niagara has to win the last 2 games, and I don't know how confident you are, but North Bay, again, they have a lot on the line, just like Ottawa did tonight. But if they win tomorrow, I would have to assume that they, unless there's a tiebreaker involved, but I think that if they win, then they clinch a spot. But nonetheless, they have to win to essentially, guarantee their playoff berth. And then, you've got Barrie, but they're probably going to sit everyone. I don't even know. I personally think they would sit anyone, even if they had a chance to move up in the standings or down, because I don't know, because they probably want to play. Honestly, they probably want to play Niagara because they've done so well against them. They just match up well. So I don't even know what would happen in that situation. But if Niagara wins both and Sudbury loses both to end the season, then Niagara would pass Sudbury. But they're down by 3 points with 2 games to go. That's a miracle.
Tonight would have really made it a possibility.
It would have been 1 point with 2 games to go, and that changed quite a bit, right? So
they lost their game in hand.
Exactly. So I don't know what it looks like. We're going to get Barrie, and that's tough. That's a very well-rounded team. I don't know how well. I think that Niagara, the one thing that they could do is outwork a team. We saw it against London. I think that's a good thing about this team. I think they would have matched up good against Oshawa or Kingston, but the problem is that Barrie is a dog of a team. They work real hard. It's going to be hard to outwork Barrie, and they might not have the same top-end guys that Oshawa might, but I think they probably would have matched up better against Oshawa or Kingston, right? So it's unfortunate, right? They're going to get a very, very tough opponent. Yeah,
it's going to be a learning experience for sure for this young team.
Absolutely, and that's very important, too.
Getting their first taste of playoff experience since the 2018-19 season. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back. We're going to hear from IceDogs head coach Ben Boudreau, and we'll get Cam's player of the game a little bit later as well. So stay right here. We'll be right back on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs, proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family. Back after this.
In the Niagara region, Global Pet Foods is your destination for premium pet nutrition and caring expertise. Whether you've welcomed a new furry family member or need advice on top quality nutrition, their dedicated staff is ready to help. Discover why Global Pet Foods' lesser-known premium brands outshine the big corporate names. Their team's passion ensures your pet's health and vitality. Check out one of their locations today: 3643 Portage Road in Niagara Falls, 160 Highway 20 in Font Hill, or 400 Scott Street and 344 Glendale Avenue in St. Catharines. Global Pet Foods, where premium brands and caring staff make the difference.
Wild Bill's Auto Repair is your local center for auto maintenance and repair in the Niagara region. Since 2012, Wild Bill's Auto Repair and Body Shop has been helping customers stay safe and confident on the road, knowing their vehicle is in top running condition through the garage's services. Located at 7868 Oakwood Drive in Niagara Falls, the garage started as a tribute to the owner's father, William Robert Hunter, who passed away, continuing the same community spirit and high level of service which customers can expect from him back at Hunter's Auto Repair. Their multi-award-winning auto shop has earned the trust of the Niagara community with its fair treatment of all customers who can feel confident they'll get trustworthy advice and repairs during their visit. Their experienced crew loves meeting new people and looks forward to forming a lasting partnership for the care of your vehicles. To find out more or to book a service, contact them today at 905-358-7868 or wildbillsauto.ca. Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road since 2012.
Are you currently looking for work in the Niagara region? If so, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road in Niagara Falls. Their many free services include a fully staffed resource area open to the public, resume and cover letter writing, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment, training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, Better Jobs Ontario information, and registration assistance. Check out their website at ehc.on.ca or call 905-358-0021 for more information. The Niagara Employment Help Center, helping people find work since 1983. This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario.
Celebrating a birthday, wedding, graduation, or just watching the big game, Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano is there to satisfy your pizza needs. Serving handmade Italian pizzas created with the freshest, top quality ingredients, loaded subs, and their famous chicken wings. Platinum Award recipients of Community Votes Niagara for Best Pizza and Wings in all of the Niagara region 3 years running. Open 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week from their brand new location at 7156 Drummond Road in Niagara Falls. All payment options accepted to fit your convenience. Available for call-ahead pickup or delivery. Place your order today at 905-374-4400 or check out their online menu for the best quality pizza and wing combos you'll find in Niagara at carmine'spizzeria.ca. You've tried the rest, why not try the best? Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, proudly serving the Niagara community since 2013.
This is Alex Asadorian.
Hey, it's Ryan Roberg.
This is Ivan Galliano.
This is Matthew Virgilio.
My name's Jack Brody.
And this is the Dog Pound Podcast,
the official podcast of the Niagara IceDogs.
Welcome back to part 2 of today's Niagara IceDogs game recap, right here on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs, proudly brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family in all 4 of their great Niagara region locations. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in live on our Armchair GM Sports Network YouTube channel, and those listening the next day in your favorite on-demand audio platform. Make sure to give us a follow on X at Dog Pound Podcast. Stay up to date with all of our IceDogs coverage. Brandon Caputo and Cam Halbert are back with you, continuing to break down the IceDogs' 2-1 defeat at the hands of the Ottawa 67's in their final 3-3 to close out the 24-25 OHL regular season. Cam, again, this is our last broadcast here for the regular season. We're going to have our big playoff preview show live on Monday for you guys listening there. That'll be live on our YouTube channel. And then hopefully with the post-game shows following games 3 and 4 that the IceDogs will most likely be hosting there right here at the Meridian Centre. But again, they got a tough North Bay team coming in tomorrow, or today if you're listening to this next day, and Barrie on Saturday. You want to see them continue to be consistent, and you don't want to go in the playoffs, as you mentioned, with so many losses kind of strung together there with the win against London and Erie being really the only 2 games they've won in the last month and a half.
I'm curious what happens with Flores. Like, do you think that he starts tomorrow?
No.
I think that he needs to start in Barrie.
Yep.
I think the IceDogs need to dress a full lineup against Barrie because I think the absolute worst thing that could happen is if Barrie doesn't dress everyone and they win. That sets a message that even without their best that they can win. And I think that if Niagara is able to win the last game against Barrie, regardless of who's in the lineup, I think that goes a long way because they might get 8 games in a row against these guys.
And North Bay has to travel here to Niagara for this game because they just played tonight at home against Oshawa, where they won 5-1, by the way. Big win for North Bay. Barrie lost 3-1 to Owen Sound. I don't know. The last week of the regular season's weird because, again, some of these teams
guys aren't playing for anything. So, Owen Sound, I believe, is in a playoff battle with Sarnia. So, that's a massive win. And like I said, a lot of these guys, if they're you got players that might not play again. You got overagers, things like that. So everyone's going to be trying real hard regardless right near the end of the season. But there's a lot on the line of this last little bit. So, it'll be interesting. But, yeah, the Owen Flores thing, I think that if they were to win tonight, then maybe that changes things for tomorrow because it would have been possible to catch Sudbury. And, again, I think that the team would rather play Kingston or Oshawa, to be honest with you. But just again, given the season series, it just was the Barrie games were not friendly to the IceDogs. So from start to finish, really. So, I think that was still in the cards. But now that they lost, you probably see Humphreys against North Bay. And then in Barrie, I think that given the situation that they need some positive vibes, they don't. They just dress their whole team and try. It's like a warm-up for the first round, essentially.
A warm-up for
or to
what?
set the tone for it, that they're not going to get pushed around. So you know what I mean? Like, I think that it's a far bigger game for Niagara than Barrie. And that first game in Barrie, again, we're assuming, but it would be a pretty big miracle if it wasn't Barrie. But anything can happen in this sports. But I think that there is a chance early on you could punch them in the mouth because they think that it's going to be a cakewalk, right? The first two games are in Barrie are extremely important because they have to split those, right? And then they come back home and it's loud in here, assuming. Right, we're starting to get some good crowds, and we could only assume that a playoff matchup the first time in 5 years is going to be pretty loud. So anything can happen. I would love to see a series at least go long. I think that would be big. A sweep would just be a sweep would cement the brutal last 2 months. Because if it goes long and they show a lot of heart and fight, then the last 2 months is whatever. They got into the playoffs, right? Like, we look at it far differently. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but I would assume that Owen Flores does not start tomorrow.
It's quite the opportunity that you play the team you're most likely going to play in the first round, your last game of the regular season. Yeah. It's just tough to see how you're going to gauge each other. You're
going to see Barrie finish every check and get into every scrum they can.
Marty's going to have it ready.
I would be willing to bet that is going to be, because they know that win or lose on the scoreboard, it doesn't really matter. But they're going to make sure that they try and intimidate. And the IceDogs have been pretty good at answering the bell against that. It hasn't felt like they've been outmatched in terms of their weight class at all this season. So it's going to be big. They just got to make sure they stay healthy too. Obviously we don't know what's going to happen with Wysick. So that's big, and you can't lose anyone else. So,
no, absolutely, you need to be healthy with your full lineup, and luckily they have Flores back. So again, that's stabilizing presence on the back end. He played really well.
He's
going
to have
33
a game
of 35 tonight.
I guarantee that. If there's going to be a playoff game where Flores stops 55 and he only lets in one, he will give them a shot in one of the games to steal, because he's been waiting 5 years.
He got into one playoff game with London.
What was that, his rookie season?
Yep.
Oh my! That'd be crazy to go back and see how did a rookie goalie get in?
Well, he was a 17-year-old.
Oh, true. Fair enough. Okay.
We'll get into it more with our post-game with IceDogs head coach Ben Boudreau, brought to you by Wild Bill's Auto Repair, helping customers stay safe and confident on the road in Niagara since 2012, and honor the late William Robert Hunter. Here's what the IceDogs head coach had to say following his team's 2-1 defeat at the hands of the Ottawa 67's. Well, Coach, I thought you had a good start there, and if Loshko was able to kind of put that one in to make it 2-0, I think we have a completely different game. But how would you assess the way that things ended up tonight?
Defensively, I thought we played good. Flores played good. The 6D, I didn't think gave up anything. I thought it was, they capitalized on two mistakes. They burned a forward up top in our offensive zone, and we didn't back check. To get that second one. So, from the defensive standpoint, it was good, but offensively, we didn't execute. I mean, we were passing up shots when we should have shot and shooting when we should have passed, and we just weren't crisp or clean, and, there's too much talent on this team here not to execute, and that's when frustration takes over, and it's a useless emotion. So I think it got the best of us here tonight.
Do you think the second period where they scored both the goals and kind of really started to turn the game? Because I felt like in the first period, you guys had the pace, you guys had the multiple chances to break that game 2 or 3-0, and then maybe put them away. But it seemed like in that second period things started to turn for the 67's.
Yeah, well, we talked about that killer instinct, trying to put the nail in the coffin, and we let them hang around, and we let them hang around long enough. They find ways to make you pay, and that's what they did for us. So, we had multiple chances. Like I said, it came down to execution when, we didn't score, we didn't find a way to get the W.
Yeah, and when you got two teams that are desperate like this in Ottawa and North Bay coming in, where they're basically fighting each other for that last playoff spot, is that something that you and the team talked about, that even though these are two lesser teams in the standings, they have a lot to play for right now, you need to bring your best effort?
Yeah, there's no question about that. And these teams are desperate, and that's something that we would like to be. And I hope it's just not a switch we think that we're going to turn on in the playoffs here. We were trying to treat that like a playoff game. And defensively, I think there was a lot of good things to like. Again, I don't know how many games off and that we've only given up 2 goals, but offensively we need to find a way to execute, and we didn't do that tonight, and I think it ended up costing us.
Knowing that team had a penalty kill that was less than 70%. Was that something going in where you knew that power plays was going to be something that you really needed to capitalize on tonight? You got the one on the first one, but then the last two you weren't able to do, and then when the empty net.
Yeah, we took a penalty on the second power play, and you can't do that, especially come playoff time when you have an opportunity. And I think that was the one that they ended up coming right out of the box and scoring on. And then, we had a 6-on-5 with a couple of looks, but we didn't find a way to get it in the back of the net. So 1 of 3, 33% is, admirable, but at the same time, we can't rely on power plays. We got to find a way to generate 5-on-5, and we didn't do that here tonight. Didn't shoot enough pucks.
Did you like the extracurricular stuff that went on tonight, or did you think that maybe it was a little bit much and then kind of baited you into taking a couple penalties there?
No, it didn't hurt us. I think it gets the guys in the game, and it's. Again, that's a hockey game, right? And it shows emotion and that you care, and it's good to see.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
There was IceDogs head coach Ben Boudreau on the Wild Bills auto repair postgame. Cam, short and sweet tonight from the IceDogs head coach. Again, very frustrated at his offense not being able to execute on the opportunities they had. He talked about passing when they should have shot when they should have passed, and again, as you kind of mentioned earlier, just not really crisp in the offensive zone.
Yeah, it was very odd because this team is very shoot first. We often don't see. Like the game against London, one of the things that stood out was that they just snap it around, and they're doing things that you can't even see as a viewer. And the IceDogs are very simplistic because they just have shooters that can beat goaltenders clean, and they have many of them, right? And that's a skill that they take advantage of. Tonight was odd. There was like an extra 2 passes, and some of them were really well done. But there was a play that was, I believe it was a 3-on-2 type situation. I could hear Ben after Loshko passed it in through the crease he was yelling to shoot to the bench to get it on because the first they were trying a lot of different things, and then that one that second period one was kind of the big one that magnified the issue. But obviously you can hear it, and we do these post game shows all the time, and you can hear them. I feel like the team sentiment is that they're just trying to get through this, and I don't know if it was bad of how well they performed in the first half of the season, because I think that they won so much that they just were like, we're in the playoffs. I just looked in the last 20 games. That was since the last win. They've played 21 games since January 26th, right? They have 8 out of a total 40 points. That is what we are used to the last few years, right? 8 out of the 40 points. But they've already, they already had such a good season that they just locked it up, and it was just like for the last 2 months we've just been waiting for the playoffs. And even as a viewer, there's a lot of nights where, like tonight, we're just waiting. So I like that he mentioned and he brought up the fact that he hopes that they don't think that it's just going to be a switch. But I mean, that's the only silver lining here.
And he talked about the defensive coverage was good tonight.
They played well. Yeah, defensively, I thought they were fine tonight. It was, like I said, Ottawa didn't have anything.
And with Flores, they just seem like they have so much more confidence. And this is nothing against the young Matt Humphreys, who's going to be a star in this league, and Hayden Jeffrey, who has probably one of the greatest IceDog wins of all time now against the London Knights. But when you have number 35 in the net, you could tell that they play with so much more ease.
It's not even early on. It's that if they give up a goal, they don't sag. And during that stretch, it was like they would play well, and if they gave up a goal, and again, if it was a softer one, they just sagged. And you could see it. They would just kind of, drop play a little bit, and they just couldn't do that. And that's not fair to the goaltender either, by the way. So, and like you mentioned, I think that both of them are going to have, I think that for sure Matthew Humphreys is going to have a big run in the league. And he was really thrown into an unfortunate situation this season because he was needed, right? And I hope that doesn't hurt his development going forward. I think that he's going to be a great goaltender. He was a highly touted prospect, and I think that coming into next year, he's going to hopefully use that and just get a little bit better over the summertime as he gets a little bit older.
So before we get out of here, we're going to put Cam on the spot as always with our stick tap of the game, brought to you by Hockey Stick Man. Pro Stock hockey sticks for major junior teams right up to the NHL teams for half the retail price. Stress-free shopping experience from start to finish. Check them out at hockeystickman.ca to join their mission of saving hockey families money. Cam, I know they only scored 1 goal tonight, but who's your player of the game for the IceDogs?
It's Flores. This was a game where there was a very few moments where there was some nice, play. but it was just a very boring hockey from both teams. Again, not a detriment. That's just what happens sometimes when you get two teams that are playing well defensively, and I thought that's what we had. I thought Flores made a couple of nice glove saves, calmed things down. It's his rebound control. That's another thing, right? When they get hemmed in the zone, he can just stop it, eat it, and get fresh legs out, and that was something that we were missing over the last couple weeks. So he makes everything calmer, and he is going to have to be the MVP in the first round. So I'm really excited to see how he plays because he is just an absolute warrior. Battler, loves to play and compete, and now in the playoffs, I think he's going to have a lot of fun too.
He's been their MVP for most of the season, and you really saw it when he went down for a month, how much they needed their overage goaltender back there. And again, he's fresh, ready to go, and he's played 2 really solid games here since he's been back, so it gives you a lot of encouragement there that, like you said, maybe he can steal you a game in the net when you have a goaltender that's played as well as Owen Flores. So, Cam, that's it. We've got our big playoff preview show on Monday, but that's it for the regular season here for our game recaps. Again, playoffs is a whole other story, but we've made it through the entire season of game recaps here after the home games at the Meridian Centre.
That's 37 games. You look at the sheet and it's like, holy smokes! Ready for the first round.
You've been dying for playoffs since November.
It is. Like I said, I think that is what we've been watching for the last few months too. I think everyone has just been ready for it. So.
Absolutely. So that's going to wrap up our final IceDogs game recap of the 24-25 OHL regular season. Again, we'll be with you for our big playoff preview show on Monday on both YouTube and on audio. But thank you to everybody that's tuned in live on our Armchair GM Sports Network YouTube channel and those listening the next day in your favorite on-demand audio platform. Again, make sure to give us a follow at X at Dog Pound Podcast, the update with all of our IceDogs coverage. Dog Pound Podcast is brought to you by Global Pet Foods, where pets are undeniably part of the family in all 4 of their great Niagara region locations. 2-1 in favor of the Ottawa 67's here tonight at the Meridian Centre in front of 3,979 fans. We'll be back here against the North Bay Battalion. So for Cam Halbert, my name is Brandon Caputo, signing off here from the Meridian Centre and the IceDogs regular season post-game recaps. We'll talk to you on Monday.